What is going on, everyone? BouseFeenux here, and today I have got something that I feel is very, very special to show you guys. Roman, the dreamy game director of For Honor, was able to sit down with me for an exclusive interview. We covered a lot of topics, and he was able to give us a ton of interesting insight about the game. Now, this is a fairly long video, but I assure you it's worth it. And I know how that sounds, but just trust me here. Also, as you may have noticed by now, there isn't any gameplay in the background because, one, it would take me an incredibly long time to capture, edit, and render 35 minutes of game footage, and two, and probably most importantly, I felt that it would distract from the conversation. So do yourself a favor, grab a snack, put on your favorite headphones, and relax, because here we go.
At the office, so everybody's playing around me, so it's a pretty good day.
Nice. Are you participating?
Yeah, I got eliminated this morning, so I'm a little bit pissed off, but it's okay.
Who were you playing?
I was playing with Damien, I was playing Centurion and Valkyrie, and we got our ass kicked. So.
Oh, was it 2v2 or just 1v1s? Or what
yeah,
was
we were playing in Brawl, so 2v2.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Real 2v2s, right? Not
yes, no, real 2v2 where you gank when you kill your opponents, or etc. No, it was cool.
Right, that's how they should be played. So there we go, confirmed. 2v2 is gank mode. It's
exactly.
To be. Okay, now it's settled for once and for all. So yeah, I guess today we're doing a short little interview, hanging out, asking some questions, stuff like that. And I'm ready to get started whenever you guys are.
When you want.
Yeah, I guess if we're ready, we can go ahead and take it away. So first is, I guess we just introduced yourself. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself. So guys, this is Roman. If you want to take a second to, and is it Roman or Roman? If I say Roman, is that pretentious?
No, you can say Roman. Actually, in French, it's Roman. So. Oh,
okay. I can't do the R roll thing. So. All right. So Roman. All right. So if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is at Ubisoft, and I guess take it from there.
So my name is Roman Campos Oriola, and I'm a game director at Ubisoft Montreal on For Honor. I'm on For Honor since almost the beginning of the project, so more than 4 years, and I'm at Ubisoft for more than 12 years.
Wow, that is a really long time. So I guess you've seen a lot of projects come and go.
Yes, I saw some. I shipped some, and I got some cancelled. It's a long way.
Nice. How did you end up on the For Honor team? Was that a choice by you? Was that something that you really wanted, or was that just something that seemed right at the time? Like, how did that happen?
So basically, prior to moving on For Honor, I was at Ubisoft Paris. I was working on the Ghost Recon franchise. And my previous creative director was Jason Vandenberg, and he moved to Montreal, worked on Far Cry 3, etc. And then when he had the opportunity to start the For Honor project, he reached to me, he was like, "Hey guy, don't you want to come to Montreal?" And he pitched me the game, and I was like, yes, boom. That's how I came. That's why I came here.
How many years ago was that you were pitched the concept for Honor?
It was, so I moved to Montreal end of 2012. So then there was a little bit of visa times, etc. So yeah, it's almost 5 years now.
5 years, yeah. Man, that's incredible. It takes a lot of people and a really long time to make a video game, especially one as detailed as this, wouldn't you? I guess you would say, yeah? Yeah,
it takes a long time, but also there's at the beginning, there's a long period of conception where we're not that many. It's just a small group of people, and just doing prototype, pitching ideas, and discussing about what could be cool to do.
So have you had a hand in designing any of the characters, like from scratch?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Oh yeah, no problem. Did you have, like, I guess since you were in here that early, did you have a hand in designing any of the characters that we see in the game today?
Oh, actually, all the characters that we see in the game today were designed way later.
Really?
Yes. At first, actually, the first character that we designed eventually became the Warden.
Yeah.
But for almost like 2 years, it was just figuring the mechanic. So yes, we started with the two-handed sword, the German broadsword that eventually became the weapon of the Warden. But But first we figured the mechanic, we figured the combat. At first it was 1v1 mainly. Figuring that mechanic, the most tough part was figuring how to feedback it to the player to make that understandable and legible, and have it work as a PvP mechanic, and that took quite some time. And then eventually, when we started to have this foundation and elements of 4v4, and we started to look at more a group multiplayer kind of thing on top of that dueling mechanic, that's when we started to go like, hey, you know, guess what? Maybe instead of having different weapons like in a shooter, we could go more the way of a fighting game, where each weapon is actually a different fighter with different set of mechanic, etc. And that's when we started thinking about making multiple characters and taking the approach of each character is a different martial artist. So that means a different playstyle. So that really means a different fighter.
Wow, so the game didn't even start as the concept it is now. It just kind of evolved into that, if what I'm hearing is correct, if I'm understanding correctly.
Basically, the first pitch that we had for the game was Fight Club with swords. That was the first our first tagline. So it was always meant to be a melee fighting experience, but as we found the fun in that mechanic, the pitch and the potential of the game increased, and so as the mandate and what we were willing to do with it.
Wow, that's really cool, actually. Like, so I guess everybody, we just see the finished product, right? We haven't been with you for the 5 years, and you know, we only see like once the game is teased, and by the time it's teased at like E3 or whatever, like you guys have got a pretty solid working concept. So the thought that it could be anything other than what it is today is just, to me at least, is kind of mind-blowing. I think that's really cool to know that it could have been something totally different.
There has been many phases, yes.
That's really cool, though. I can't even imagine what it's like to see the game as you do now and think back and be like, wow, it was this. Like,
but at the beginning, when we started working on the game, actually the characters were stickmen.
Really?
It was really simplified stickman. It was a stickman sword fighting. It was really fun.
I think honestly, there's a market for that game too. If you guys just want to release that, I think people would probably go for that one as well. I remember like Newgrounds back in the day, like playing stick figure simulator and stuff. Like that stuff was kind of cool. But that's really neat. So as in terms of like martial arts, like you mentioned that a lot. Did you guys draw from actual martial arts styles around the world when designing these characters, like with the Warden, for example?
Yes, for us, there is one element that we defined early in the project, in the tone of the project, and one of those keywords was faithful, as in faithful to the source. It's the thing that we wanted when somebody play or look at characters fighting in For Honor. We wanted them to feel like, yeah, it's not realistic. It's not actually two-person fighting, but hey, it could be. And for me, it's a little bit the same thing that happened in the shooter or in the action movie. When you look at action movie in the 80s, where they were killing like 200 people but shooting from the hip, and an action movie now today where they kind of moved with the correct, they handle the weapon the correct way. They have their elbow by their body, and they are really aiming and picking the target. They still shoot 200 people, but now when they're doing it, you go like, yeah, that kind of look like it's in CNN. And that's the kind of approach we wanted with sword fighting. It still is a video game, and it's not the goal. It's not to simulate an actual sword fighting, but we wanted it to feel right, both in terms of control and feeling of contact, etc., but also visually. So when we started with the Warden, the idea is, so me and Jason were trained a little bit in so I did a lot of martial arts my whole life. At some point I did a little bit of German broadsword with Jason.
I knew it.
And so what's interesting with one school of German fencing is that there is that concept of stances, and that's where we started to go like, yeah, okay, that's interesting because that fits a mechanic, and just by twisting a little bit the reality, we can have real posing, we can have actual motion that kind of match the reality of those movements. And then also when you look at medieval sword fighting, there's a lot of actual brawl, melee fighting, like, yeah, I'm slashing extra, but I'm also punching you, and I'm using the hilt of my blade to actually hurt you with it, and all the part of my weapon. There is really an end-to-end feeling also in that, and that's where that feeling that we wanted to use with all the melee action, like the shoulder charge of the warden, the guard break, punching after a guard break, that kind of stuff. It's, yes, there's the fighting mechanic that, yeah, it's a throw, and it's here to block to open somebody that is very defensive. Cool, but also the look and feel kind of look like actual fencing when you get close and personal with the opponent, and that's something that we've tried to apply to all of our mechanics. Like, for example, the concept that assassins don't have a default stance, that by default they are neutral and every time you need to input a stance, come from when we started to develop the katana. So we're like, okay, so that point we had the broadsword, we had the shield mechanic, and we're like, okay, so let's go with the samurai. Okay, so let's start with the katana, and the character eventually became the Orochi. And we're like, okay, so cool, katana, yeah. So I've did a little bit of katana back in the day, and we were discussing with one guy that is an actual master, that is one of our stuntmen, and like we were like, yeah, okay, so what would be on the left or on the right? How would you? And no, well, it's the whole philosophy. It's you're centered. It's the alignment of your body, your weapon, etc. It's oh shit. How are we gonna deal with that?
Yeah.
Because we want it to look real. We want somebody that one day took katana and some course could look at the game and go like, yeah, it kind of look like that. And that's where the concept of neutral stance for the assassin came from.
Right.
It's, okay, how we actually make that mechanic work with an actual katana fights, martial arts, etc. And eventually then we did some stuff that are not real, etc. But when you look at Orochi fighting and his move and how he moves when he's in guard and how he block or deflect and then counter attack, yeah, kind of looks like a guy fighting with a katana.
Right. Like I was watching the movie 13 Assassins the other night. It's an old Japanese flick.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen that one, have you?
Yeah, I see it. I saw it.
Yeah, so I was watching the fighting in that, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Orochi.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we wanted to have, that feeling of, yeah, it's not a simulation, but it looks like they did their homework. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's still a video game, right? At the end of the day, but you can tell that, like, holy crap, man! Like, this is fairly faithful, you know.
It's the same thing. Like, for example, the Peacekeeper, we took inspiration in Italian fencing, in Renaissance Italian fencing, and that's her style. That's why she has that stance where she's really low on the ground and really forward extra. That's an actual rapier stance.
Really?
Rapier fighting stance. Yes, that's. And those kind of dance moves that she does where she twists her body and with her left arm or right arm she reaches when she's doing her dodge, that's an actual motion coming from that school of fencing.
That's incredible. I guess you never really consider all those little details because, you know, you play the game and those things just kind of get like washed away, but like bringing that stuff to the surface is really cool. It's really neat to have an understanding of why everything is the way it is. But I did have a couple questions for you that I prepared.
Yeah, go on.
And I was wanting to know if that'd be okay if we jumped into those.
Yes, please.
All right, cool. So the first one I have, and this one is kind of a good segue, I guess, since we're talking about character design. Why go with the concealed face? I noticed that's something that is a theme across all the characters. Everyone has a concealed face in the game. Is there a reason for that, or like what's the design behind that?
So let's say most of the character, like the warlord, don't have a complete concealed face.
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But basically,
Trigger.
the goal, the idea, it's we have art visual level of fidelity that is really high. And we also have motions of character in terms of animation. It looks really, really real and really high fidelity. So doing also that level of high fidelity facial animation for all of our characters it's not that we could not do it. It's more, is it really worth doing it? Like, is it gonna make the game better? Because it's about sword fighting or melee fighting on a medieval battlefield. So it's people that are actually fighting on the battlefield. You want them to have defense. You want them to have armor. Are you going to a battle without your helmet?
No.
So that's how we thought, and we felt we had more the most value is to go like, yeah, let's have character that looks really, really great when they are on armor, that moves really, really well, and move with a level of accuracy and fidelity that is really awesome. And yes, they have helmets and mask, and actually it's kind of cool for customization to have a mask. That's more the philosophy we took.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that like with Kinsei, like his mask, it looks like a face, and then you have like some people put the emblem or the embossing on the knight characters, like the Lawbringer and stuff, and it looks like a face. Like there's a bunch of different customization options that I think are almost, you can personalize a character more and give it more of an expression without actually showing its face and just having the helmet there.
And also, at the core of the concept of each of those heroes, there is the concept that they are not a unique character. When you're playing the Lawbringer, you're not playing Golden Cross.
Oh boy!
So the concept was to, if you want to play Golden Cross, yeah, okay, you can imagine that you're playing Golden Cross and try to get customization close to what you have in the campaign. But the goal, it's more like you're playing a unit. You're playing one of the Lawbringers. You're playing one guy in amongst the warden. So it's your guy. So if they all have the same face, it's not necessarily the best. For some character, we felt it was worth it, like for some of the customization of the Raider or the Warlord. But as a generic rule, for all of our heroes, we're like, it's more about the fighters than the actual character. It's more about the weapon than about the guy holding the weapon, if you see what I mean. It's
right.
Pure concept of the game.
I like that. I like that concept, though. But I think in just one sentence, you pretty much just killed the dreams of every Lawbringer main that plays the game. One thing I did notice, though, I don't know if anybody else notices this, but when you change helmets, like I know you can see it with like the Berserker, the Kinsei, the Valkyrie a little bit. The character's face shape changes a little bit, like it's a different face completely.
Yeah, we have the face and the myth, like for the Valkyrie, that's changed also the way she has her hair and the color of that, etc. Right. So same thing for facial hair of the Warlord or the Raider. So yes, we play a little bit with that. It's an element of customization like the other. It should not be central in terms of character.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a neat little detail. So moving on, let's talk new characters. I had a question here. What are things you implemented in the new characters that you consider that you've learned from the original 12 characters? So taking Centurion and Shinobi in mind, when you went to the drawing board with these guys, did you say, well, this is what we learned from the original 12, how can we incorporate that into these new guys? Was there a conversation like that, or how did that go?
It was not an exact conversation. It's not like Monday morning, okay guys, what have we learned, what we don't want to redo. It's a little bit more organic and step by step than that. But the main thing I would say we learned while balancing the characters, the roster since launch, and that's what we did by adding more mix-ups and that kind of stuff. It's our characters need more options. Basically, we have a philosophy, and the way we create movesets, it's each character needs to have initiating move, each character needs to have countering move, and each character needs to have the big punishing moves and the way to output DPS. And then, based on your class and your role, one of those three pillars it's actually stronger or weaker than the other character in the roster. And one thing we learned is that we were not generous enough at the beginning in terms of options in each of those area for the initial character. So that's why, as an example, if you look at the buff we're doing for the Raider this next week, that's something that we do. Is like we don't necessarily add new move to the Raider, but we add more ways to actually use the existing move. and by being able to cancel any heavy attack into the standing tap of the raider, then any attack can actually now become an initiator, because you have less risk to being parried when you're doing an heavy attack or this kind of stuff. Sorry, not the heavy attack, the unblockable attack. So that's the kind of thing that we learned while balancing the game in those first months, and that we wanted the Centurion and the Shinobi to have from the get-go. More ways to start the fight, more ways to react to something, more ways to counter, more ways to punish the opponent. Not by making them OP, just giving you a little bit, more more different ways to express the playstyle of your character.
Wow. Okay. So that kind of answers another of the questions that I had. I was going to ask if you plan on expanding the kits of any of the existing characters, but from what you were saying, it sounds like you just want to give each character a way to use their existing moveset in better ways, like with the Raider.
Exactly. And yes, maybe at some point down the road we'll figure that we need to add 1 or 2 tools to some existing character, etc. Maybe we'll get there, but for the moment we want to make sure. Basically, we have a tool internally where we track for each hero what moves are used in fights and where, so how often a specific move is used for each hero, and how much damage is coming or is following each type of moves. Okay, and so what we're looking at currently, it's okay, so how can we make some moves that are less used or that are less used to do damage, how can we get them higher in the kit? How can we get the kits of each character more balanced? And for the moment we're still in that phase. And that's still something that we're doing. Maybe at some point we'll hit a ceiling on that perspective, and we'll start to think to add new stuff to existing character. But we still have some margin before reaching that.
Right, because each of these characters is fairly unique. They're all very different from one another, and there's a lot of potential in the future to add other movesets. And it'd be like fighting in real life, right? You fight for years and you pick up new moves along the way, you know, something like that.
You learn new tricks.
Right, yeah, you learn just new things as time goes on. So that would make a lot of sense, and it's cool because you have these amazing canvases that is each character that you can continue to add to.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess that being said, the next question I wanted to ask is, after the dust kind of settles and everything's been out, have you guys toyed with the idea of, and this was a question from my community, they were really interested in knowing this, have you guys ever considered adding new campaign content for these new characters as they come out, or adding like a mission for them to kind of introduce them into the world and the lore of the game?
So the goal is we are trying to introduce them in the lore of the game through the introduction videos, through background that we're giving to those characters, etc. But today I feel that the core of the experience, what is worthwhile to the players, it's more around PvP, and I prefer us to focus on the PvP aspect of the game and try to nail it down. And put as much production power as we can on that aspect. So for the moment, no, there is no plan to increase the PvE experience for new characters.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and that's kind of what I had figured, because the those introductory cutscenes that we've seen in the dev stream and stuff like that, and that you guys have uploaded to your YouTube, I feel like those have done a pretty good job of summing everything up. Like, hey, this is why this character is here. And even in the actual game itself, like the single player version itself, there are references to some of these characters.
Yes.
Like I know the Centurion is there, and Apollyon talks about working with the Centurions, the Romans, yep, at some point, and they help the knights.
But as an example, we feel it's better to add new maps for multiplayer with the new season than, let's say, add a new mission for each of these characters, because those new maps, you're going to play them for hours. A new mission, well, it's 20-30 minutes of gameplay. Right. It's cool, yes, but do you prefer to play 100 of matches in the new map?
And I think most people would say yes to that.
So that's more the philosophy that we've decided to apply.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the other questions I had, and I think we kind of answered this one too, but I just want to recap it for anybody that may have missed it. I was going to ask, how do you guys keep balance in mind while adding more and more content? Is there a formula that you guys go by? And I think you kind of explained this a little bit with the sliders that you're talking about, where each character has an opener, damage, and some other stuff.
So we have a design philosophy for each character. Like, yes, we want them to have, like I said, openers, finishing move, counter attack, etc. We have a lot of tools internally to do that. We have a lot of tracking data. We're creating frame data for each of the characters that allow us to quickly compare recoveries of specific move against build-ups of other moves, etc. But honestly, that is good to do a first pass. But then the balancing, it's just handwork. We have a balancing team, so it's a group of dev testers that are just specialized in a group of characters, and they play the game every day, and that's them that give us the first batch of information for balancing. So that's when we reach like alpha on the character. We have the designer made the character. Those dev testers play a shitload of matches with those new character, and now the character is alpha. And that's where we start to interact with the community, with the new character. That's where we start to bring players under NDA at the office, and we have them play those character, and we start collect feedback from them. And then we release the characters, and that's where the shit hits the fan, and we go on Reddit, and people contact me on Twitter, and it's a normal process because, like, there's hundreds of thousands of people playing the game every day. Okay, when we come people from the community to the office, again, that's not large number. So during the months that it takes us to build a character, the number of match that we play, it's a little bit less than 1 day of live for one character. So
right.
That's the moment where we get the actual bulk of data. So we try to have it as balanced as possible prior to launch with all the tools that we have. But
and I've heard this from other game dev studios too. It's impossible. Like, you just don't have the manpower or the hours. Like, you could play it for weeks, but it's not going to compare to all of your player base playing it all the time, every day, 24/7. You know,
like for example, one thing that is interesting. It's so we have a matrix that track win-loss ratio for each characters, for all of our characters. We figure that for that matrix to become viable, we need at least in each matchup, we need more than 50,000 matches played. Because till we don't reach that level, we can have hints, we can have directions, but it's never gonna accurate. It's never gonna be really accurate. So I learned that the hard way when one day I said, actually, the Raider is kind of good at killing Peacekeeper. It was because at that moment, in the matchup matrix, it was good at doing that. And then 2 days later, we had that many matches more, and actually it's inverted, and it stays like today, where it's not a good matchup for the Raider. So that's why we need a lot of matches played to be able to have a better balancing. So our job is to try to have it as best as we can for the moment of release.
Yeah, that's a lot of manpower and a lot of work. And yeah, it makes sense though, because there's so many different facets to consider, and there's going to be 14 characters, and playing all of them against each other in every conceivable situation is actually, it would be impossible, wouldn't it? Like, even today, I guarantee you there's still some things that, like, some situations that haven't come up because there's so many variables, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're kind of running short on time here, but I did have a few extra questions for you, and they're kind of all the same one.
Go.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of personally for you. What would be your favorite character by playstyle, by looks, and by concept?
So my favorite character by playstyle. Honestly, today It's not because he's releasing next week, but it's the Centurion.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm leaning more towards him as well.
What I really like in the playstyle of the Centurion is that mix between heavy attacks and melee attack, and the fact that you can deal damage on both bars of your opponent. You can deal health damage or stamina damage, and even when you deal stamina damage, then you get a knockdown that leads to more health damage. I like how that character flows in terms of attack. So that was something that I had before a little bit with the Lawbringer and the Warlord, which were my two previous favorite character, and that now I have even more on the Centurion. He has other weakness that don't have the Lawbringer and the Warlord, but that's really pushy in your face gameplay of kicking you, punching you, heavy attack, punching you. I really like it on the Centurion. Then in terms of look, that's a nice one. In terms of look, I think my favorite character is the Lawbringer.
Lawbringer for looks?
Yeah, it's the most badass character I think we have in the roster. And what I really like in the Lawbringer, it's the work they did on animation, and that was one thing. It's one of the concepts when we were thinking about the Lawbringer was we really wanted him to be like a wall that is moving forward, and that's why when he's in guard and he has that animation where he walks slowly and you can see his shoulder, etc., it's really that feeling like when you have a boxer owning the ring and you see him moving on his opponent. That type of feeling, that was something we wanted for the Lawbringer, and I think that translates really well on the character. And what was your last one? Sorry.
It was favorite character by concept.
What do you mean exactly by concept?
So I guess like this character, you kind of explained it a little bit with the Lawbringer thing, like a boxer owning the ring, sort of thing like that.
Yes, yeah, that's it. There is one concept also that I like on the Shinobi, which is the one of the first thing also we said on the Shinobi was it has to be an elastic, in the sense that he's at range, poof, he's in your face, boom, no, he's back at long range. So that concept that he's constantly moving back and forth of your range, but he's always little. That's something really cool that I think translate on the Shinobi. We'll see when it will be live.
Yeah, those are fantastic answers. That's really cool to have that insight. But those are pretty much all the questions I have. Was there anything else that you wanted to add in or talk about or mention? For maybe the people listening?
We cover it. What I'm really interested is to get more feedback on this character when they will be live. Like I said, we need that feedback to be able to improve the balancing. So please play the shit out of Centurion and Shinobi and let us know what you think.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
Really? I don't see why you said that.
It's pretty much all anybody in at least my community can talk about, and from what I've seen across the internet, like, everybody's really hyped for the new characters. I think you guys did a great job on them, and I think people are really, really excited to see them in action and actually play them.
Thank you, and don't hesitate to reach to us on the forum, on Twitter, etc. We are actually reading all of these comments, even the salty one. And when there are interesting elements, even in the salty one, we actually take them into consideration and don't look at the crap formulation that there's sometimes in it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. So yeah, you heard him, guys. Reach out, play the characters a ton. Get ready for Tuesday. It's gonna be a beatdown for sure. It's gonna be interesting seeing all these Shinobi and Centurion fledglings trying to learn how to play the characters. So pretty excited for that. I hope you are as well. And I really, really want to thank you guys for taking the time to set this up and to talk with us today. I'm sure my community will find this very valuable, and I know that even if they didn't, I thought it was extremely interesting to get to know some of this stuff about the game. But Roman, thank you so much.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
It was really a pleasure.
All right. So guys, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for checking this out, and we'll get back to you soon with more content.
See you guys.